Good morning, Joe fans. How's it going?
It's
So
early.
this it's early where you are. It's almost lunchtime
Yeah.
for Mike.
Yep.
So this is
Day's almost done over here.
this is the G.I. Joe 3D printing podcast. I am Mark from Mark II Toys. With me is Mr. Michael Cleppinger
Morning, everybody.
and Mr. Artoine Poor. And we are the
Good morning.
admins on the G.I. Joe 3D printing Facebook group. This is episode 11. This is actually our August show. Just things didn't work out in August, so we ended up doing it in early September. And we will have another show later this month. And the topic of that show will be painting with our guest, Mr. Giles Gifford. So that'll be cool. But today we are discussing mold making and casting. So yeah, I guess the pressure's on me. So I've been we were just starting to talk about this. So I've been dabbling in it for years. Initially what got me into it was when I was doing like tabletop gaming stuff, and I was making little pieces for tabletop games. And so it's weird, like the group is a 3D printing group, but it really kind of encompasses a lot of different disciplines, from 3D design to printing, and it's really kind of like all the steps along the manufacturing process, except none of us own like a big factory with $1 million injection molding machines. So
Yeah.
everything short of that is kind of what we want to talk about and cover.
If only, man.
Yeah, maybe someday, right?
Once you're on your way, man. Like I said,
You're right there, Mark. You're right there.
Right there.
So actually, I mean, my curiosity kind of peaked with getting into this from watching a guy on YouTube. One of my favorite guys to watch is this guy called Craftsman on YouTube, and he kind of gives you a lot of helpful kind of tips and run throughs. So I'm just curious to know your process, Mark.
Yeah, so there's a lot of nuance to it, and not unlike 3D printing. The more you do it, the better you get. The more you understand, the less waste you produce. So for us, making the step from 3D printing to casting makes sense if you're trying to do a lot of something that's a pain in the ass. And another sort of crossover. A lot of people think that what we are doing is primarily like repo parts. I would argue mold making and casting is the right way to do those things if you can get your hands on the stuff. So I've got a couple things I've going, like, it's weird. I had to pull these things out of a box in the garage. So years ago, I did this little mold.
Okay.
Can you tell what that is?
That
I gotta be seatbelts or something. No,
is that the gun off the drone of a night raven?
those are missing. Those are like the lasers. Yeah.
Yeah, the gun from the Night Raven drone.
Yeah.
So I had one complete Night Raven, and then somewhere I had gotten the drone, and it didn't have the guns. So I took the guns and I made this mold, and I was able to make an okay copy of that gun to put on my extra. And so that's one.
I like how he says "okay" because only like a real artist will just totally critique everything that they're doing to the worst.
So these are rubber molds. This was a two-part material, and I usually just use Legos to make the little box shape, and then you put down clay, and you press your piece into it, and you pour your rubber mold on it, and flip it around, remove the clay, do the other half. So when you're putting it together, what I do is I get little pieces of particle board and I cut them to the shape, and I use a bunch of rubber bands. I'll show all this stuff out in the garage here in a bit. But no matter what, like, you have to put just the right amount of pressure on it so that when you inject into it, you don't force the mold to separate a little bit, because that's how you get all the flash and misalignment. But if you put too much pressure on it, you deform the shape. So there's a happy medium, and and this is real thin. Like if I had done like a much thicker mold, you can put more pressure on it because there's less deformity that can happen when you've got more mass behind it, right? So a lot of times I do like fully 2-part things. What is this one? This was a missile. I want to say it's for like the Hiss 4.
Okay.
The spy troops one that looks like a snake and the head pops up.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a missile for that. So if you've got a 2-part that comes completely apart, you of course run the risk of the material leaking out the bottom.
Yeah.
Which is bad. So like sometimes on these cheap little molds, like I'll make it so that it's, I'm sorry about the camera bullshit, but it's connected at the bottom so that can't happen. But that causes other issues. Is there an echo?
It's just tiny. It's not real bad.
Right. This is a foot for the shoot, what's the name of that cannon? The laser artillery gun. The guy sits in it.
Oh, the HAL.
The HAL. Yeah, this is a HAL foot.
Okay.
What else do I got? Oh, this is a missile pod for that Hiss. I think it's the Hiss 4. Kind of down to the right of the head. There's a little like missile pod. And I've played with a couple things. Can you see that discoloration on there?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
So that is like a silver mica powder that I use to kind of color the outside and make it look metallic. This is that's Fang missiles though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So those are all injection.
And with those, are you pressurizing those, or you just leave them in sit?
I didn't have the equipment to do that when I did these.
Okay.
This was years ago. Years ago, I did these. So I do have that equipment now, but I'm still limited. So the thing you're fighting when you're mold making and casting is air bubbles. You any air bubble in the mold will, it screws it up. It doesn't look right. It makes it, even if it's hidden, it weakens the integrity of the cast. So what you're always trying to do is get rid of mold and get all the air out of there as you can. So one thing with the 2-part materials is that there's a chemical reaction going on as it cures, and that creates gas.
The bubble.
So one of the things you do before you either create the mold or do the injection for the casting is you degas it. So you put it into a vacuum chamber to try and pull as much gas out as you can. But even injecting, because I'm not a machine with a gallon tank with a heavy plastic, right? Like there's no way I can inject into it and instantly force out all the gas that's in there, or the air that's inside there, right? So it's challenging, especially like when I'm injecting and I'm doing fine little detail parts and I've only got these tiny little holes for the air to escape. It's a lot, and we'll get into that a little heavier later. So this is what's easier, right? So this was a mold I did for a base. I did a little statue of a locust mech I had designed, and then so I 3D printed an original hex base, made this mold, and then I was able to just cast. And this is years old, so it's a little deformed now too. But But what I was doing was I would have this on standby, and so whenever I would mold something else, I would pour the excess into here, and then over. That's why I've got this two-tone thing going on, because you've always got extra. You can't. There's no way if you were to try and dial it in to where you used every last drop of what you mixed up to do the thing, you're just asking for trouble. So you always have to make a little bit of extra. So I was just using this to catch all the extra, and then I was just making these bases that way because it was going to get painted and everything. But when you've got a one-part mold like this, like you're just pouring it in there, so it's obviously the air has plenty of room to escape and get out.
Yeah.
So if you're doing like a large, like a statuette or a bust, something that's got like a big base, you can just leave that open and just pour into the mold, and that makes it real easy. But when you're doing fine little detail pieces like I've been, it's challenging. It's a question of how much cleanup do you want to have after? Do you want to have to cut off a big piece and then sand it down, or do you want to take a little pair of clippers and just clip off a little bit of extra? And I lean towards the latter. This is another cool thing. So this is a material that's used for high temperature. So these are more little hex bases I was used for gaming, and I was pouring metal into these and making little metal bases, which is nice for those little gaming pieces. Like you'd like to have the heavy base, so they stand and they don't fall over or anything like that. So, but we'll talk about all that shit a little bit more here in a bit.
Okay.
Nice.
Oh man.
I think
I'm just
one general question you might want to go into, Mark, before we start is why? It's not just about reproduction of a part, correct? You actually get a stronger build.
Yeah. So like these were going to be metal. Like I can't 3D print metal. I don't have that machine. Not yet. Not till I have the $1 million factory, right? But I designed my own bases. I did like a cobblestone one and big tiles, and I did a smooth one here. I got one with like a partially destroyed wall. So like these are, custom metal bases for gaming pieces. Like there was no other way I could produce that, right?
Right.
But then to Mike's point, right? Like if the material you get, the resin you get out of a 3D printer, even if you use your ABS like resin and you put some tenacious in there and you use industrial grade, it's not going to be as strong as the resin I'm pouring into these molds. Could be. I could get something that's, and this is the other thing, is like the range of materials that you can use are vastly different than the range you can get from 3D printing. And 3D printing is kind of, it's getting there, right? The way we've got like a rubber-based 3D resin for TLP, SLA, whatever now. So it's growing, but man, like here, I want to pull this screen up real quick. So this is a website for a place called Reynolds Advanced Materials.
Okay.
And this is where I go. Like you can go to Hobby Lobby and they'll typically have like one, maybe two little sort of mold making cast in resin, like a 2-part rubber mold, 2-part resin kit, but it's not going to be specific to anyone's needs. It's like an absolute basic introductory kit. It's going to be a little bit overpriced for what it is, but if you're curious, that's not a bad place to start. And I did that. Like the very first thing I ever made a mold and cast. And I wish I had more of these. So what I'm going to show you is a cribbage board that I made back when I was a direct support officer in the Navy. So I was out riding submarines, but I wasn't part of the ship's crew. So do you know what cribbage is?
Oh yeah.
All right. So I'm telling this story because it's fun. Part of the culture of the submarine, at least in the United States Navy, is cribbage. So down underwater where there's no interweb of any kind, like you can't have that stuff. There's no room for a bunch of TVs, and like there's usually 1 or 2 TVs on board, period. So people aren't playing video games. They're not listening to music real loud. Like there's just stuff you can't do. But what you can do is play cards, and for whatever reason, cribbage is the game. Like that's what everyone plays. So when I first got to the shop I went to, the guy that was going to take me out on my first sub ride, I was going to be under instruction. I was a UI. He's like, "You can play cribbage, right?" I'm like, "I have played cribbage. Why?" And he's like, "You need to start practicing. Download an app, and start getting good at cribbage." I'm like, "What are we talking about here?" He's like, "You will see." So no kidding. No kidding. It was a cool time in my life. Like it was a lot of, I was gone a lot and, missed a lot of things. But it's like, "Hey, Mark, it's Tuesday. We're going to need you in Guam on Thursday to catch a boat out into the ocean where a sub's going to come up and you're going to get on and then you're going to disappear off the face of the planet for 4 months." Right? That sounds cool, but it's a lot of
crazy.
Work. And it's so I got on board my first ship. No shit, we're on board. They, here's your bunk, throw your shit in there, and then the captain and the XO want to talk to you in the wardroom. So we go in there and they're sitting at the table and you introduce yourselves and they've already got the cribbage board set out. They're shuffling their cards already. And no shit, I'm on board 15 minutes and like the CO and the XO are playing me and the guy I'm with in cribbage. And it's like, it's them feeling you out, man. So like, if you suck at it, they're going to have a low opinion of you right out of the gate.
Wow.
Yeah. Like it was weird. It happened every boat I went on to within a short amount of time of getting on board. Like I was playing cribbage with the captain and that's how they kind of introduce themselves and they play every day, every single day. Anyway,
Wow.
So this is a cribbage board I made.
Oh, nice.
And if you can see this, where is it? Over here. This thing here.
Mm-hmm.
So in the direct support world, direct support is where you've got people that are experts at certain things that you don't necessarily have attached to a ship, a plane, a submarine. But when a need arises for that skill set or capability, whatever, the direct support teams go out and they do these missions. So they're not part of the ship's company or the ship's crew. They're not part of that air crew, but they'll come out and do a specific mission. A great example of that is like a linguist, like if you're a linguist for a very specific thing, maybe something's going on in a weird part of the world where they typically don't have people. They'll send the linguist out to do their thing. Anyway, so we would do where is it? Subsurface, surface, and air. So this is like an amalgamation of 3 different warfare devices. So when you're air crew or air warfare, there's wings. Sorry. I don't know if you can see that. So that's like that's air warfare pin. It's not air crew, it's air warfare. It's a subtle difference. But that's a surface pin up here. You can't see it. Anyway, so the direct support kind of unofficial logo for a long time was this thing called the flish. That's a flying fish, where it's kind of these different warfare pins kind of stuffed together. But I don't think anyone had ever made one before. So I got them, kind of cut them up, welded them together, made the mold, and then cast it out of resin. And I started making these cribbage molds.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So, but that's the first thing I ever made a mold and cast is that. Sorry for that impossibly long explanation.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I want to put your screen back and show that so we can get a
Yeah.
Shit. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Good call. Let's see. How do we do it? Ah.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So it's a subsurface, surface, and air. It's 3 different things kind of put together. and then silver for enlisted and gold for officers. So.
Right. Oh, that's dope. That is nice.
Nice.
So yeah, so that was the first thing I ever did, and that was with one of those kits you can get at like a Hobby Lobby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bring this back. All right, so again, so this is the Reynolds Advanced Materials site. Back on point. This is where I get my stuff now, and I've been very fortunate to live near a Reynolds for a while. I think I was near one in Florida. Let's do locations. Yeah, I was not too far from one when I lived in Florida, and now I'm in Denver, and I'm 20 minutes from one where I'm sitting, which makes me just so lucky.
So there's one. It looks like there's one up in my corner there.
Yeah, dude, if you can get to it, it's worth going to. It's worth just going to. And then the mothership, the main one is here in Pennsylvania, and I was like 2 hours from that one when I was living in Maryland. So when you go to a Reynolds, you walk in and it's like set up almost like a museum, where what is this? They do classes, which is cool. They do a lot of, especially around Halloween, they do a lot of like costume making classes, like how to do special effects and gore and masks, and it's pretty amazing. But they do giant molds for statues and giant molds for like fancy sidewalk tiles and all kinds of stuff. But you walk in and it's just like all these cool examples of stuff people have made, mugs and masks and cosplay stuff, and just hundreds and hundreds of items. And it's really cool to see what people have done. They sell everything you need, and you can get it in different sizes. You can get, a 12-ounce something. You can get a gallon something. You can get a drum. It's pretty cool. But this is what I recommend. And the other thing is, every employee I've ever encountered at this place knows what they're talking about. So if you have questions, they can point you towards the exact thing that's going to help you accomplish what you're trying to do. This is interesting. They make a thing called XTC 3D, and it's a 2-part resin that you brush onto FDM prints to smooth it out. Let me see if I can. I don't love it. I think there's certain applications where it would be great, but if you're trying to do like a machined looking part, like a gun or something, it doesn't go on smoothly enough that it wouldn't require sanding to look like a metal machined piece. Like if you put it on like an organic something like this, they always show this skull. That's great. But if you're doing like a gun or something, it's going to cure uneven enough that you need to sand it, and it cures so damn hard that it's very hard to sand. But something like that skull, once that thing's cured, you could probably throw it against the wall as hard as you want, and you would probably hurt the wall. Like it's like rock once it cures. But again, like if any, like I think we've got 2 people watching, maybe 3. If you live near a Reynolds, like it is worth going to check out, 100%. So if you can see this map here, I think I've got it big enough. Yeah, like I enjoy just going to that store. It's like going to a Micro Center. Like Micro Center is like one of those, maybe the only place left in America where you can go and just buy all the components you need to build whatever kind of computer you want, right?
Yeah,
it's just fun to walk around. So that's where I get all my stuff now. The products are called Smooth On, and you can get them. You don't have to go to a Reynolds to get it. You can get that stuff on Amazon. You can buy it off their website. But I absolutely recommend that if you're interested in getting into, no kidding, you want to make a mold and do a cast, go find a Reynolds. If you're, in Wyoming or something and just not near any of these things, that sucks. But you can still get the stuff. It's very doable.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, no drive for me, but I do it.
it's like you're
To
gonna
it.
eventually head over that way and just like
Mm-hmm.
make the stop. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So there's a couple things. Let's get rid of this for now.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I'm looking it up for Atlanta, and it's literally about 5 minutes away from my mom's house, in an
Boom.
Wow.
area where you would not expect something like that to exist.
Well, it's not like a boutique store. It's usually it's in like a little industrial place because I mean they're storing
Mm-hmm.
lots of chemicals.
Yeah,
You know, so yeah, they're the one I go to here is surrounded by a bunch of grow warehouses. So like it just smells like marijuana or
oh,
like pungent, like overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's a bit much,
Wow.
but
I'm gonna have to go, man.
okay.
Guilt.
So they are the two primary mold making products they sell are Mold Star and Mold Max. And I don't remember which is which off the top of my head, but one is tin based, the other platinum based. And I've talked about this a few times where when I first started doing it with this stuff, uh, the resins I was using in my 3D printer, and it took a long time to figure out what was going on, but they had trace amounts of sulfur in the 3D resin, and the sulfur was inhibiting the cure of the tin-based two-part rubber mold compound. Meaning, I would build my clay, put my piece in there, I would mix up my two-part mold, pour it in, and then you've got a pot life, which is how long it's liquidy and you can kind of mess with it, and then there's the cure time, like how long it takes before it's no kidding done curing. And it would just never cure. It would kind of thicken up and get gooey, but it would never fully cure. So I would end up with molds that were useless, just trash. Um, and I tried a lot of things. I tried spraying it with like a varnish. I tried spraying it with acrylic, just to get a coat over it. So hopefully the sulfur wouldn't react with the tin-based mold, and it just never, nothing worked. So I ended up, I talked to the employees and they recommended switching over to the platinum-based stuff, and that worked. So I was doing the platinum-based stuff for a long time, and the difference between the two that matters is one of them is 1-to-1, where it's no by weight, by mass or volume. It's one part and one part, mix it together, easy, done. The platinum-based stuff was like 10-to-1 or something like that by weight, and so you have to measure real carefully and mix it up, and it was a pain in the ass. But that's what this pink one is the
Okay.
platinum based stuff, and it's got platinum in it. So guess what? It's really expensive. uh
We're talking. You have to have a scale.
yeah, a little scale.
Stuff. Yeah.
Well, depending on the size of the mold you want. Like I primarily do little things, so I just have a little scale. If I was doing something big, the scale I have wouldn't work because it's tiny. So I'll caveat everything with this. Right now, in its current formula, the Elegoo ABS like gray resin, that very specific ABS like gray Elegoo with tenacious in it, is not causing an issue with the tin based molds. So I'm back to using the 1-to-1 stuff, and it's still expensive, but I can use the 1-to-1 stuff now. And so that's what I've been using for the claw.
Sweet.
Yeah, so this is a mold. So the original piece was a SLS print that I sent off and had made because it was just from here to here is too big to fit on the build plate for my Saturn. So the option was buy a bigger machine or have someone else print it for me. So I went with have someone else print it for me. So then I made the molds and I cast all this stuff.
And it's two like part molds. So top.
For no, actually. So the good question. This piece, this rubber stuff that I'm doing down here, that stuff is so damn thick I can't push it through the syringes that I use. Not well. It creates so much pressure that it almost always forces the mold to separate as I inject it in, because it doesn't flow quickly or easily. And it's rubbery, so it'll build up that pressure and force the mold apart. So I've got to do that in a 1-part mold, and I'm still kind of injecting it. We'll go take a look at that here in a minute.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll do a field trip into the other room here.
All right.
And hopefully I don't totally mess this up here. Let me see.
Oh, which you?
Okay. I'm gonna figure this out. Hold on.
But I mean, it's really good to know that you can use the tin based mold with the ABS like resin. So that means you can print your piece with the Elegoo resin, ABS like resin, and then you can use that to set your mold in a tin base, which is probably a little bit cheaper than the platinum. That's super good stuff to know.
Go away, man. There we go. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you, can't see you. I see a frozen video of Mark.
No, I see him moving. It just could be the connection.
Yeah,
it could be my connection.
To my connection, since I'm on the. I moved over. All right. Just okay. So, I was gonna show. Give me a second.
No problem. Oh, we're in the Mark warehouse.
Yeah. Do this without screwing this all up. All right. Okay, you see all this here? This is a little forge, and I was gonna do a little of pouring or not pewter, tin, and zinc. And I was gonna one of the heat the mold first, like you put it in the oven, an oven here. So I was trying to see if I could get it to work, and so I'm gonna put that out of the way. Yeah, is this working? I can't see it anymore.
Okay, so I see you. You're good, and I think Mike just kind of went in and out so he can get his connection working.
All right, do this one. So this is the mold I'm using for handlebars. So
yeah,
I've just want to show you the honestly, I think this is the part is kind of prepping it for the next run. So because I design in FDM sized enough so that I can create like a screw. I can ratchet down each corner, and it's just one more thing I just do, but that way I can see. See that?
That's dope. All right, so you're flipping off your venting.
Yeah, and I created a couple little spots for air to kind of get pushed to on the tips of these pieces. That's it. So then,
All right. So
there's
why
a little bit of like,
can you explain?
explain what?
So you while you're doing it, can you also explain like how do you know where you need to put your venting?
So this is probably really tough to. What I know I need is resin can come in, and I know I need pushing that resin in. I need a spot for the air to get out. I need more than one. So on something like, I know if end down, I would get from down here, from all these little tips. So that's a bit much to inject here and have it push down and then out.
Okay.
This way, I know if I inject over here all the way through and this come out the other side. So it should work to push the resin in and the air out. Piece by piece, I just got to think about it, water travel through this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to make sure that's kind of your frame of mind. Let's take a look at this one. Gun that goes on top of the cloth. So this one's a little trickier than I thought it would.
Okay.
So the tip of this thing's important, right? Because that sells the want. A lot of the old G.I. Joe was just like flat. It was a nub, and I really want a spot for the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
With a two-part mold, that's tough to do. Lucky in that this material, this rubber mold that flex to it, it's forgiving when it comes to undercuts, which is what that. If this was going to be done mold with like actual injection molded plastic, would prevent you from being able to separate, there, and then to separate it, it would rip that apart. Something called a slider, which is a third piece that it's just to the mold and creates that hole. Take those two pieces apart, that third piece slides out. With a rubber mold, it's not that it's a real issue. But what I was created these two in the mold, and that sort of worked, except when I'm injecting, it wants to get trapped in there. So what I'm doing, before I put the mold together, I inject a little bit of, just a little bit, like a couple pockets, and then I close up the mold, put the plate, rubber band it up, and then I go back and I inject the rest. I'm gonna go grab something.
Okay.
So we had four. So I'm using to create those rubber. So this is a one-part mold setup. Let me grab one. So, I put a little detail on the front, like a belt. But it's enough. It's enough that in place. And if the figure's hanging onto those handles, but the material I'm using, and I've got two that I flex. It's 60, and the other one's so it's two A and B. They're one volume. So I'll mix. Then I put in this stuff. I'll get one with the label you can read. Hold on. The red one. So strong. It's a urethane colorant. So I put a couple B, part B, and then this stuff. If you remember pot life and cure time, the pot is 60 minutes. So I have an hour. The cure time is 16 hours effectively. It's the next day before I can. So I have a stuff called Kick It.
And it's an
And
accelerator.
because I'm using one drop of this that I mixed in with the sauce, I put in one drop and it cuts the pot life basically. So instead of 16 hours, it's 8. But that enables me if so I mix it, the Kick It in with the part. Then I pour the part A in there and then I use a tip that I get. I cut it off as it wouldn't work. Normally, if it's so liquidy, I can put the tip, pull this out, and that sucks it up into it. I'll inject my mold. But this stuff is I put the tip down and I pour that stuff in, and then assemble my syringe, and I push the air out, and then like slowly kind of paint in from the bottom. If I were to just pour that stuff in here, it's air. So I still inject, but bottom of the mold, so it kind of fills from the vents. I don't even know if I'm still connected. The other drop.
Yeah,
Let me go see if he's like sitting in the lobby.
He's in there. Yes.
He's in there.
Yeah.
I have to.
Here we go.
There we go. Yep. Just been watching from the sidelines.
Yeah, sorry about that, man.
Oh, no problem.
I should have had one of you guys run the today so that I could have been a little more hands-free. All right, so rubber stuff. It's pretty cool. Again, like if I were to, like I haven't even used it's on my list. I'm probably doing some tires, how it works. But like, yeah, I assume it'd be sliced different, and even like TPU rubbery, but just it's just not the same molded like this, you know. So there's those two. Look at okay. Hold on 1 second.
There it is.
All right.
There it is.
What can
we see it? We see pressure pots and vacuum chambers, pressure pots, the air pumps, Yeah.
Okay, so
Perfect.
all right. This is easily 200. So this is just like it says, it's a mold release agent, Vaseline in aerosol. So it's not terribly toxic, anything. But I open that up if I'm going to spray, just like that. So anything that goes into anything in any mold has some type of, not necessarily this, but some type of oil, the thing you cast from sticking to. And this is important later on if when we talk about uh, building models and stuff years and years and years ago, like a very fine coat of some type of mold won't necessarily stick to it. So like anyone who's going to paint any, say, like hot soapy water, like wash it first, get any kind of mold release agent off. All right. This is my pressure pot. Let the air out. I have it here that I got for like $40 from Harbor Freight. It's loud as hell. So I'm any of this stuff right now because it's just a lot of noise. But that's all I'm using to pressurize my pot. Using this pot goes up to, I want to say 50 PS, just too much. So you put in the pressure pot so at whatever right here, and I'm in the mountain, so it's not a lot. So if I've got to increase the pressure, like that air bubble's going to shrink, just not even visible, right? So that shrink down and contract any, but there's lots of air inside this resin. You gas it and before I inject it, like air bubbles all through it. So when you put it under, it kind of retreats. The volume of it inside the mold kind of, you'll see on my molds, I've always kind of long channels where I inject there is a reservoir. So when it goes under pressure, there's some reason to it creates on the floor. Like I would need to prevent some drops from kind of getting worse. This is messy, so I don't do it on my tables because I don't have a table that is absolutely destroyed. This is more claw. Pot, that's the purpose of it, is to reduce. So nonsense on the floor, this discoloration here. Is it visible?
Yeah, it looks like a cow.
Yeah, it's resin that dripped. Or it started, if I get a single little drop or smear of resin, it's impossible to get up. But I then pour resin on top, impossible to get up. Like the dripper comes up really easy when there's lots of, I can just peel it up. See, you can see these little drops.
Oh yeah.
That look way. That was not it comes up really easy. I clean up those things. But if I did this on a table, like I would, period. But then this stuff is razor sharp, and you can cut. So at your own risk. So then over here, that's also kind of small. It's a it used to only go down to, and that's a perfect vacuum. And you know, any little tiny microscopic air come to the top. Most of it kind of pops there, but once you let the air back in, you know, they shrink back, pulled out of the liquid, so your liquid's degassed. So, but that's what that's for. So, material, not so much the casting material. You want to pull as much gas out of there. When I make the mold in a pressure pot, because I'm going to. So if I were to make my mold and then put them together, put that in the pressure pot, those molds are, because they're not used to being under pressure. Say that again. Okay, moving on.
That may have been just an echo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're gonna go back over this real quick. Hope this is working out all right. I the first time I've done this with the phone.
Yeah, when you were over at the other site, the audio was a little choppy. It sounds like everything's coming through, but there's some forced pauses that are occurring. I'm not sure if that's only from what Juan and I see on Restream, or if that's the way that it's actually coming across.
Yeah. Well, I mean, can do now, unfortunately. But yeah, I'll watch this again. If we do another, I don't know if you want, but another thing like that, way to improve it. Is that kind of?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yep.
Boom.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So you can. I think well, right? So this is the second. The first one is here, but I kind of discovered from the first one channels so that I wouldn't get air stuck and trapped. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, so in a case like that, Mark, which one of those did you use for injecting the plastic, and which ones were your exits?
So think about it like this is the top, this is the bottom. So as I inject in, the resin rises and the air comes. Now I'll move around in different places.
Did you just lose them, Juan? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we just lost you, Mark.
Okay.
Now you're back.
Ah, there we go.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I used to think in terms of inject one way and the air comes out. But what happens now is I inject until I get resin coming out of all the holes. And then I have to I take it and I smack it on the ground, I slap it, and I do this whole little dance with it to try and just coax air bubbles to come to the top. And then I inject a little, like slowly, carefully. I inject a little bit more to add pressure, which forces air up these channels. So I jump around between all the channels to
just because if I inject just in this one, when I remove the syringe, there's going to be air in that channel that I injected in. So I go to another channel to get that air out because I want these channels full because they are my reservoir for when I put it under pressure and that level retreats. You know what? I've got an example of one. Hold on.
That was a great explanation. That was and a great question too.
All right.
I mean, you know,
Can you see this okay?
Processes and so. Mm-hmm.
You see me?
Yep. Perfect.
Yep.
That's weird. My damn audio changed when I exited.
It's okay.
Hold on one
You're
second.
good.
What a pain in the ass.
His audio got better.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I can hear you guys. So
Can you hear us?
I sure do.
Okay.
So you can see these are the channels, and see how floppy? That's because most of the resin that was in that channel retreated back into the mold when it was under pressure. So this is one I did a while ago, and can you see this discoloration at the top here?
Barely.
A little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where resin retreated from the top. It's empty.
Oh, I see.
So this was full. All these channels, when I injected it, resin came all the way up out of, and I smacked it and tapped it and tried to get all the air out of there as I could. But then when I put it under press, too much pressure, so the level retreated down to about here.
Uh-huh.
Kind of empty nonsense.
Is there shrinkage in the material?
It's not that the material shrinks. It's that the little tiny air bubbles you can't see that are in here. When I put it under too much, if I put it under the overall, is it mass or volume of it? Because that air shrinks under pressure. So the trick is to use pressure, but not. I've got things kind of dialed in at 30 psi, and that seems to be for me with these molds, 30 psi.
Right.
Okay.
So your air compressor can get necessarily to use that much. That could be too much. So you're trying
right,
to
I mean, my compressor, the pressure pot is only rated for 50, and there's a release valve on there. So like at 45, I think this relief valve just comes out.
Right.
And these are the last round of molds I did. These molds right here doing really well. I'm not getting a whole lot of flash. Flash is that extra material that the two halves of the mold. And it comes off easy enough. You can run a razor along it. But best is when there isn't any. So
Okay.
they've been lately.
How many shots are you getting out of each mold?
That is not maybe first round of molds. So ones you'll never be able to experience this like through this image. Out here where there's no casting happening, it's very rough. But in here where the resin is brittle, and I think the curing process, it generates a lot of heat when you have that chemical reaction to cure. It gets really hot, and it draws out any kind of it just sucks it in. And I think that chemical reaction just slowly, not even that slowly, just destroys these molds. It really.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like I got to a point where just like I splice, but because it's just getting so brittle, when I pulled the cast out, broke part of the mold. It ripped a chunk out to a point, and they just quit.
Oh.
But what's cool is I can break this down into little pieces.
Right, and you can reuse them. Yeah.
Yeah, you just use it as fill. So like all this thickness in here, chunks of old mold that I've just broken up. Now you got to wash it really. Got any mold release on it from when you were using it, that'll screw up the inside of this shit out of it before you cut it up. But then you use it to fill, and then that way you're not using as much mold material that we were talking about. And I think we're probably getting a little long, or at least
But
this one real
yeah,
quick.
but you're showing a bunch. Yeah, you're showing a bunch.
Yeah.
Right at the 1 hour mark. But
Okay.
finish up what you're doing, what you're showing.
Yeah, I did the like the syringes I used here. These damn rubber bands. I really need a better way, like a different kind of something.
I've seen people use, clamps and stuff like that, but I think rubber band is probably the safest bet.
It's safe because I don't know if the floor in here is even level. I don't know if the bottom of the pressure level. So when I've got my mold and I put it in the pressure pot and I pour, it just doesn't come out even. It's like the
Right.
aren't necessarily parallel. So these molds are going to be, thinner here, a little thicker here than it is over here. So they're not perfectly flat.
Symmetric.
So I need each corner. I need even pressure along this uneven. So if I were to have a clamp, something that just was two flat pieces that push together, there's going to be space here. It's going to be tighter over here. It's going to deform the mold, and I'm going to lose material. So I need something that can apply even pressure across the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got, it's not too bad though. So I can for material. Here, this is a bad one. I had some issues yesterday, last night when I poured, expecting it to not be a good one. That sucks. Yeah.
But that's another thing that shows is like, these things, they don't come out perfect all the time, and that that can be a bummer with the cost of materials and things like that. So this this kind of shows like there's some really
it's
when you're getting it right, when you're getting it wrong, man.
Yeah, it just like 3D printing, right? Like there's no guarantee shit's gonna man, it's frustrating. The worst thing, like, I'm making the molds, because there's no guarantee the molds are even gonna work, right? Do the second half and do your first cast, you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Such a process. Even though like the stuff I'm using now is Mold Star 20T, sort of semi-opaque. This stuff, Mold Star, pretty good, and it's got a pot life. The pot life's a little short. I want to say it's like 12 minutes, and the cure time, it's a little bit longer than that. But about 30 minutes. That's super fast, which is why I bought, because the stuff I was using before was 24 hours for cure time. And that's to find out that something doesn't work, because that's too just fucking with the mold before you even know if it works or not. Yeah. I think that's it. We're gonna go back in the other room and get my phone off of this thing. There we go.
No, but that bit, like you gave us a lot of working tips, especially for your or how to preserve your product, reusing molds after they're done. After they're done. You can put some back in.
Yeah,
that's a great tip. And then definitely that, like, you can put all the work in, and sometimes when you open it up, it's not be right.
yeah. So what's great about injection molding, like when you send stuff to a factory and they inject it molded with plastic, so you've got these aluminum, like your two halves of the mold, instead of being rubber with all this give, it's solid metal. When it comes together, like there's no escaping that mold, right? It's not rubber bands holding this shit together. It's probably hundreds of pounds of pressure pushing these pieces of metal together.
Yep.
So when they inject it with a great deal of pressure, because that plastic's thick, right? It pushes the air out, period.
Yes.
And that's what's great about that process. But unfortunately, it's real expensive. Like
what you show is kind of like this is the at home kind of old school way of doing it.
Yeah, the DIY hobbyist.
What I'm trying to do is build the tabletop injection mold thing. So there's a couple different builds that you can make where you just, once you do it and you got your aluminum molds, and you get them in there and you just pull the lever down.
The lever.
Yeah. I'm working on a build that's kind of like.
But what I don't understand is how to get, like, I understand that machine and I've seen a couple of them. I don't understand how you're going to get the mold itself made unless you're having someone make it.
Right.
So what I have seen is Formlabs advertises that they can print, that you can buy a printer to make the mold. And it's like an aluminum case. And then you pop your mold into that aluminum case. And then it should, in theory, work. But like the precision to get those two halves of the mold to meet perfectly, I question that.
Okay.
Maybe it's good to go. Maybe no shit. Their printer can make those things perfect every time. But I want to see it before I just hit the I believe button. But yeah, like if you can do that, that's a game changer, dude.
I definitely, that's what I'm kind of hoping I could get to eventually, so I could just kind of pump a few things out that I want to do at my own pace, my own level. But yes, making molds. There's a way to make your molds through 3D printing and make either pewter them or something through just the process to make your own mold for those is incredibly long.
I answered somebody in chat. Like, so if you're not someone that watches the show, I'm really bad about looking at chat, and I made a mental note to try and stay on top of it today, and it paid off for somebody who now knows we have a YouTube channel.
So
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna grab something. I'll be right back.
Okay.
sure. So Mike, you have not type of mold making or like that, right?
No, I haven't.
So Aaron just put there's a craftsman video where he used the silicone mold case. Exactly. I've seen that. There's a lot of work involved in trying to get done, but I think in the end, if you can make it work.
All right. So, and this is like years of me farting around to get to where I'm at, kind of, watching YouTube videos and figuring out what works for me. So I did want to show this. So this is just a crappy little syringe. I buy these on Amazon. Same with these. These are little tips for the syringe.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
So
pretty
they
much
start out.
what I'm trying to do.
They're pretty. The first time you use it, it's just nice and smooth. And then I try to reuse them because these are about $1 a piece, and these are a couple cents a piece. Like I buy a little case, but it's not that many. But I like the little metal tips that I've got.
Oh, nice.
On this.
Now, are those intended for mold making, or are they?
No, these are almost definitely medical grade.
Okay.
And this up here is called a lure lock, the little screw-in thing. And my wife years ago had bought like a big variety bag, and so I kind of slowly worked my way through it. And I was staying away from the metal tips because I thought they would screw up. I was afraid I would hurt the mold with them, but it turns out like this is kind of what gives me the best performance. I only get to use this once. So I'll do one injection with this tip, and then I got to throw it away. And then I can, 90% of the time, I can reuse the syringe 3 to 6 times, and then it's just kind of trash. It's just kind of, it doesn't hold up. What happens is, remember I talked about mold release?
Mm-hmm.
The tip of this thing, this is rubber. It was molded. It's got mold release on there. So the first time that I inject with this thing, any resin that's trapped on here just comes right off. The second time I use it, it'll come off, but it takes a little. And the third time, maybe it comes off, maybe it tears the rubber apart, maybe it just doesn't come off. So I'm at the mercy of what the resin decides to do to this rubber tip, and that dictates whether or not I can reuse the syringe.
So if you use out of it, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty much the average.
Yeah.
3 to 4 is the average. But here it is. So this is like $1.25. I get to use it a couple times, and then I have to get another one. So just for example, the claw, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different molds to make this. The missiles, the gun, the gun, the handlebars, the bottom, the top, the rubber part there.
Harness, yeah.
This like all told, for me, I designed it, so I didn't have to pay for that, but I had to pay to get the print because it was just too damn big for my resin machine. And honestly, like it was because it's big and it's flat. I could cure it, but shortly after it would start to deform and warp. Like if you get half of something wet and it expands and it causes it to turn. Mm-hmm. If you over cure one side but not the other, it'll start to bend. So because my intention was to make a mold to cast this thing and try and sell some, it needed to be perfect. So the stuff I was making on my machine just wasn't going to work. And because it was too big, I ended up paying for someone else to SLS print this thing. Anyway, all told, to get to this fully cast piece that I have in my hand, about $1,200.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, like, I don't think that's not even counting like the pressure pot, the Elegoo
Right.
Saturn, the air compressor, the vacuum chamber. But like every time I do one of these, I use a little use the little plastic cups to mix the resin. I have a little stir stick that gets ruined. I have the syringe that gets ruined. I'm going through rubber bands like fucking crazy. You know, the molds only lasted so long. But like buying the 2 gallons of mold material, the 2 gallons of the resin material, like it adds up quick. So
I get
if
you.
you're not intending to make lots of something, you just want one really nice solid thing. And again, the 3D print, like if I had this resin 3D printed this and I dropped it on the floor, there's a good chance something's going to break off, right? I could throw this across the room. I could throw it like this and it would probably stick into the wall. Like and it's light, it's solid. So there's good things about casting versus just having that resin print. And again, like the resin stuff, I'm very curious in a few years if we see like resin things just starting to deform, because they're getting UV light.
Yeah.
If like
Heat, moisture, UV,
I paint my stuff, but I don't know if that's, no kidding, preventing all the UV rays that are coming in through these windows from getting into it, curing it a little more, and over possible, you know, months, years, if that's eventually going to just make things kind of warp and distort and eventually come apart. I don't know, but I know it's not going to happen until it's cast. So like if you go to Reynolds, instead of buying a gallon of molds, you only buy 12 ounces. You know, you bring the price down. So if you're looking to make a couple of things for yourself, for a friend, whatever, like a little project, and you want it to, the end thing to be just solid and nice, taking your 3D print, making some molds and casting it, you know, for maybe $100 or $200, you can make something that's going to be just way more durable than your 3D print. That's my 2 cents.
Possible, yeah. Oh, I also feel like size or volume is another part of the equation. The stuff that I'm doing, I don't know if I really want to do it because it's 20 pieces of itty bitty pieces, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and honestly, the smaller it is, sometimes the harder it is to work with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You talking about for the figures?
Yeah.
It's tough.
For me, I mean, and I'm only using this as an example because I know there are some people out there thinking the same thing. It's like, well, what's the best size for doing something like this? You know what I mean? Like that.
Well, you're talking 3 3/4 scale, like a head and arm. If you're talking like half the,
well, you know,
I think the thing to keep in mind, I think all those things are doable. Like I was doing like tabletop minis, and those are just too damn small. I think guns, depending, like a pistol, that's a little small, but like part of it is that they're so thin too. Guns are right on the edge. Like I might be at a point now where I've learned enough about how to construct the mold where I could maybe start doing guns, but I don't want to. I really don't want to. There's no, I mean, there's no reason for me to do that. But I didn't really get into this, but see these pegs? Those are called keys.
Yeah, the keys.
And so I have like an Allen wrench, and I just press that into the clay when I'm making the mold. But lots and lots of keys, lots and lots of keys. That's key.
That's key.
Yeah. No pun intended.
Right. No. So the keys are pretty much kind of help lock the mold.
They lock it in. They keep it from shifting. They keep it from distorting. Keys are important. But you don't want to you don't want to try and do too many things in one mold. So I did the gun for the claw. Like I did 2 of those in one mold. That was it. Yeah, like those little pieces. You don't want to.
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, if you try and do too much at once, you're just asking for trouble.
yep.
Just asking for trouble with that. So that's, I would say, like, I think any part of a 3 3/4 inch figure is
There's
doable.
20.
Yeah, and it's doable. And because they're small, you don't have to do a big ass mold. You can do
Right.
little molds. I would say, give yourself plenty of room on all sides of it, so you can have plenty of keys and channels and everything. But I think it's all doable, and none of it's super sharp. None of it's going to have lots of undercuts. It's just going to take time. I would definitely, it comes back to like those 20 pieces. If you were to get the mold material that takes 24 hours to cure, you're looking at over a month, really, unless you've got enough materials to set all those molds
To
up at
do it
once.
all.
And that's, I mean,
Once.
every mold I make takes me an hour or 2 or 3 to set the mold, just to set it up before I do the first bit of pouring.
Mhm.
And then I get that first half out. I gotta carefully remove the original. No, you leave that in. Sorry. It spray the shit out of it with mold release, do the second half. But then when you take it apart, now you've still got to like carve the channels a little. You make little adjustments here and there after.
Yeah.
And it's hours and hours of work. And if you make a mistake, you're throwing it all away and starting over.
And starting over, exactly.
Yeah.
Which, not I don't want to say things to detour anybody from diving down the rabbit hole. I just want to make sure people know like the amount of work involved, and you can do it all right, process by process. And then in the end, like what you did when you opened up, you still might what you need. So, it's definitely like a labor of love when you're trying to get into something like that.
Yeah. And yeah, like anything else, it's got its pluses and negatives, its ups and downs. But at the end of the day, it's fun. Like
Yeah.
I'll say it drives me nuts and I hate doing it. But why am I doing
Keep doing it.
Because when it works,
When
the
it
payoff
works,
is
when
like,
it
oh
works,
my
the payoff
gosh.
is fantastic.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So I do. I don't know if you guys saw, but I'm finally printing myself a ferret.
The fair.
Yeah. Yep.
Show and
And,
tell.
Works.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. So this is just the hub.
Mhm.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's big, right? The ferret is so deceptively large. And I think I talked to you guys about this before, right? And I put some pictures up. Like I stood a figure up next to the back end of it, and it comes up to his shoulder.
Whew.
You
Wow.
remember this? Hold on.
So what is that what is that scale? What is that?
It's still
It's
supposed to be
supposed to be
118.
1/6. Well,
You see
this
it?
is just for. Is
Holy
this just
cow, yeah.
Yeah.
the 3 3/4? Holy
Yeah,
crap.
that's the original no shit ferret next to an original no shit 3 3/4 figure, and the back end is up to his shoulder.
Yep, it sure is.
It is huge. The thing is damn huge.
Hmm.
So
And you're doing it for 1/6 scale.
what?
Are you like the
Classified?
Classified scale, 112.
112 scale. 112
Yeah.
scale.
I could do a 1/6 scale. That's what I love about it.
If you do that, you might as well make it 1-to-1.
Yeah. I've seen it. Have you seen the 1-to-1 ferret?
I haven't seen it, no.
Yeah, they take it to the Joe Fest and things like that. It's an actual ATV that's doing cosplay.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed
Anyway,
it. How
so
did I not see that?
let's do that. Okay, so this guy right here, I printed, like when I have a circle, I find if you orient it on the build plate in anything other than like that, it's not a perfect circle when it's done.
Yep.
Mhm.
Period. So, and this
Yep.
is a wheel, and I don't want it to do that when it rolls. So I have to print it like this, flat,
Yep.
at a 90-degree angle to the
To the
LCD
plate.
screen.
Yep.
And it's thick, and so you end up just really supporting the shit out of it.
Mhm.
And I've had a lot of fails printing, not this one, but other tires or hubs or wheels, whatever. So I was actually kind of expecting this to fail, and it just decided to work for some reason. But I'm not going to print all these. I'm going to make a mold and cast this just because I just don't want to print it again. Honestly, like I sat there with a hammer and chisel breaking the supports off.
Trying to get it off. Yeah.
Not off the build plate, but the actual the raft and the supports were a mess. And but they have to be. Like I did auto support, and like, oh my God, what it was just like it might as well have just been solid all the way to the plate. So I threw that out and supported it myself. But it was still so much. Like seriously, I've never had to get a hammer and like try and break supports off again. So I'm not printing another one. I'll make a mold and I'll cast these. Just to make it easier for me.
Okay, so
you know
that's going to be a 2-part mold, and where are you going to put the crease line? Is it going to be just right down the middle?
Yeah, I think right down the middle, because the tire will hide anything, any flaws that are in the middle there.
Okay.
So how do you then plan on doing the tire?
3D resin, rubber resin, which I have not used yet. It looks.
I was just going to ask if you used it.
So I'm going to use that for the tire.
I think that'll be its own podcast.
I've started making vests for the figures, like armor vests.
Oh,
so
okay.
I got it to do that, and I just haven't had time. But it should work for a tire. I'm going to use that hose on the ferret that goes. You can kind of see it here by his foot.
From the gun to the.
Yeah, so I'm going to use it for that, and I'm going to use it for the tires, and we'll see.
What's price on those on a bottle of that? Because I've actually
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna go grab the bottle. I'm sorry. Keep talking. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I've made the baton for the flight deck crew, where I mix probably a 7 to probably 70% tenacious with some coloring and a little bit of ABS like. And it gave me a nice rubbery baton. But that tenacious is expensive. It's like $70 a bottle.
I don't think that tenacious is the right way to rubberize something. I think it's great for adding. I mean, that's what it was originally intended for. Like that's what got me into it, was because I was looking into tires.
Well, I've done, like I said, I've done it, but it's for itty bitty small parts. I did little batons for the flight deck crew for the flag. And I used mostly tenacious with some coloring and a little bit of ABS, and it came out nice and rubbery. Nice.
Yeah.
But for a tire that size and the the price of the bottle of tenacious, that's not the way to go. That's why I want to know how much is this resin.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. Here we go. So let me.
And I love it when we put a shopping list together anyway. It's just gives me more stuff. More stuff to put in my cart.
Is this better? What's the right way to do this? All right. Anyway, F76. I've got a bottle right here. So Dante Grace over on the Infinity Equation, he had used this. I think he used it to make a vest, which is what I was looking to get into, and he had some good success with it. And so I bought this stuff right away, and it's been sitting out there for like 2 months. So yeah, it's so also expensive, $57. $57 for this bottle.
For that bottle, and that's the 500 grams. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
That's pretty nice.
That's beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah, that looks really good.
So as much as I'm still amazed that TPU works, that my wife was able to make it work so I could make tires for those the Prime trucks.
Mm-hmm.
This looks really good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That looks really, really good. So
Look at that. I look at the detail. You can see even the itty bitty little
it looks like a rubber tire.
Yep.
Not an approximation thereof. It looks 100% like a rubber tire. So yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, the bottle's a little cheaper than getting
Yeah, if you were to mix Tenacious and another $30 bottle,
right.
like yeah, that price goes up, and it's not gonna. I suspect not gonna be as good. So yeah. So, but
Okay.
no, yeah, I'll certainly keep everyone updated. I think no shit. I think I'm doing that today because I have to make sure. So before I go and make a mold and cast this, I need to make sure that other thing works with it.
Fits on it, right?
So yeah, I have to print that before I do the next step. But otherwise, and I sent the body of the ferret's too big for my machine, so I'm having that printed for me, like I did with the claw. This thing turned out beautiful.
Oh wow, yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yep.
And a little part of me, and by a little part I mean all of me, I want to do the tailpipes in the Molotov chrome. And I know if I post pictures of that, people are like, they should be black. It looks dumb.
Yeah.
And I want to do it so bad. The gun looks freaking awesome.
Yes, it does.
It's huge. Look how big this thing is.
That's massive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, everything printed really nice. A little part of me wonders if I should do this piece in the rubber. We'll see.
Rubber.
When it's done, we'll take a look. It doesn't need to be, but that might be a nice touch. I was worried these would be.
I've never understood those.
No, I to this day have no idea what the hell this is supposed to be.
Well, I'm definitely curious how many tires you get out of that one bottle. So
yeah, great question, right?
Something to know. Yep.
Yeah, I bet I could probably get like 12. I probably could do 12 out of this.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna find out.
Yeah.
Like originally, I was like, I'm gonna do one of these damn things. Take some pictures of it, get some likes, boost my ego a little bit, and I was 100%
how much they can buy it for. Offering you $30.
Well, this is the thing that bot, like I designed that. I did it as a commission for someone who wanted to sell 3D prints. Period. Printing at FDM. So I designed it to be printed FDM. Like I'm gonna have issues when it's time to put it together, and I've got to put like these. And I use Tenacious, so there's a little bit of flex, but there's a bunch of pieces like that here that are going to be tight, and I may have to either sand down or I force it through and it breaks. Like I'm going to have some issues assembling it. I know I am, because it just wasn't meant to be done with resin. It was meant to be done with FDM. PLA plus, I think. But
yeah, PLA plus. Yeah.
So yeah, just like I'm going to do one. I struggle with the blue on this is so dark it's almost black. I don't like that blue. They never use this shade of blue in the cartoon, right? The Rattler was this super dark blue. The Asp was this super dark blue, and I'm gonna do a lighter blue. I'm gonna go more cartoon with the blue, just because I prefer. It's my personal preference. So I've been thinking about that, and then I was thinking, man, I really like painting the Tiger Force stuff. So, and there was a tiger paw, right? Like, so I'm I'm probably going to make 2 of these things so I can have a Tiger Force one to put next to the Tiger Force Ram cycle. So I'll probably do 2, but I have no interest in trying to sell these things. Well, and I'm like, I got a commission to do it for someone else who's selling them. So I'm not in that game for anyone who's curious, but I am going to make some for myself. And
what you are going to need to do, Mark, once you have a classified ferret, you need to make a classified figure of Ramon, that giant gladiator guy from the
I know
Mass Device, picking it up and tossing it.
Did he pick one up and toss it?
He did.
Yeah.
It wasn't, the ferret wasn't released yet, but there was definitely a 4x4 that 2 officers, 2 Cobra troopers were riding on, and he freaking picks it up and spins it.
Wow.
I
feel like somebody has made.
I think you can. I think you actually can make one pretty easily, because there was the Marvel's Legends does a character that's Hercules. And I think with the right painting, and if you can get a head that matches the cartoon character, it's spot on.
Head, no problem. I would wonder, like, because he was a goddamn giant. He was like twice Duke's size in the damn cartoon. I think if you went with like a McFarlane figure or something like a 7 or 8 inch figure versus a Marvel Legends, which is 6 inch,
right?
I think if you did like the wrong damn scale figure,
that's true.
That might be the way to go.
Yeah, and actually, I take that back, because I was thinking of doing the custom Legends figure to fit 3 3/4, because he's just so dang big.
Yeah,
but it matches the ridiculous scale of the cartoon.
Yeah. What a great series, man.
Oh yeah.
I could rewatch the Mass Device thing just over and over and over again, back to back.
Typically, sometimes I just keep the channel on and just let it play on a mini vac. Left it on in the house. I can.
I'll send you a message. Are you okay?
Every time I have binge watched the old G.I. Joe, like I'll invite all my sons. I got 3 boys. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna watch G.I. Joe. You want to watch with me? And they'll be like, no. But like an hour, 45 minutes into it, like they start showing up on the couch.
They're just sitting there,
and eventually, like every single time, I end up with all 3 of them, and we just watch.
Nice.
But like, no kidding, it kind of speaks to how good that show was. That it's still good. Like, there's shows from the 80s that like I can't even sit through them now. Like, I used to religiously watch them as a kid, and they're just horrible.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe, man, you can just watch it.
There was a certain level of quality with that show and the amount of effort they put into it that I believe really holds up.
Yeah.
Which it was funny. I was on one of the I was talking with one of the podcasts just in the text in the chat, and they were saying, well, they need to have a new cartoon. I was like, why do they need to have a new cartoon? All the classified figures look exactly like they did in the original cartoon.
They're getting there, but that was like a big complaint at the beginning, right?
Oh yeah, definitely at the beginning, but like Spirit, Spirit is spot on. So if they can just amplify getting kids to watch the original shows, it ties directly to the characters.
It's good. So here, so much has changed that I don't know that they could resell it, like repackage it and resell it again, because no one's got a cell phone. There's no internet. Like there's certain relatable things.
That's a good point.
There's just some things. My issue would be I don't want it to get into some lazy writing where the solution for everything is have someone hack it. Get someone on a computer to hack it, problem solved every time. Like I hate that. It's like Star Trek was like this. This is the Next Generation, and I don't really watch a lot of it, but every damn problem was like, we'll invent some technology and make the problem go away. Like every time, like, come on, man.
True.
But yeah, like I never watched any Spy Troops. Did you guys ever see any of the Spy Troop stuff? The G.I. Joe Spy Troop?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, cow, is it bad? It is really bad. Someone posted something the other day, and I was like, oh man, like, and I've got multiple figures and maybe even like vehicles that came with DVDs, and I never even tried to watch any of that shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's bad. It's really, really bad. And like it's early CGI, so there's that problem. But then like the dialogue, it's bad.
Yeah.
The plots are bad. It's not good. It is not good. But then you've got Resolute, and you've got
Renegades. Renegades was actually really good.
Renegades was not bad. Not bad. It was so far removed from the G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero Sunbow stuff that it was a little jarring to.
Oh, it's the 18.
Right, but it was
group of specialists driving around in a van.
Yeah, it was the 18.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it could be done. I think if they want to get, like, right now, it's only adults are buying this shit.
Yeah,
period.
I think my big argument for the group, for that chat was, it's not that they can't make a cartoon, they won't make a cartoon. There's too much money involved that they're just never going to make them. I find it very unlikely that they're ever going to make a cartoon again.
So they were in talks about there being a cartoon, and I haven't heard anything else about it. Like a year or two ago, they were like, "Yeah, we're going to release a cartoon." Well, we haven't heard anything.
Exactly.
So they probably looked at the whole situation and figured, well, this is just a nostalgia piece. Grown men are buying these things, so why are we going to make a cartoon? We can't. It's so hard to capture the kid audience. We're just going to sell it to people who don't want it.
And they don't watch a lot of cartoons these days.
Right.
No, I mean back when we were growing up, that was the thing you did. Before you went to school, after you got home from school, and everybody was seeing the same thing because there were only 3 freaking channels. So it was in everybody's consciousness. Nowadays
there are only 3 channels at my house. I had a friend down the street that had cable. But he watched G.I. Joe too. So.
Yeah.
Oh God. I know how I know you're old. There was only 3 TV.
It was like 9, click, 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 11, and click, 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 click.
Yeah.
Yep.
You take back your channel that showed the cartoons. Yeah. Well, you're right about that.
Oh yeah. You got the UHF and the VHF. And
the UHF and the VHF. Just the like, holy crap, man.
Click, 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 click. That the lower one. Channels like 13 through 45 or something.
We had channel 69 in our area. So yeah, that was like the low budget UHF station, the Weird Al version of UHF.
Mine was, I want to say it was 65. It was my weird channel. Yeah.
Ours, we had channel 62, and then 50 was like that cartoons came on.
9 was my afternoon get home from school, watch cartoons was channel 9. I was up near Chicago.
Okay.
And man, the worst one was when baseball season started.
Oh.
Come home from school to watch G.I. Joe or whatever, and be a fucking baseball game.
Yep. Cubs.
Yeah. What
was that? What station was that? Because I think we got that one down here.
Yeah, I've been sitting here trying to remember the.
Yeah, it had a specific call sign because that's why the Cubs became so famous. Same as here. We had TBS, which showed the Braves.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
That and Starcade.
we have really gone off on a tangent here, and
That
we're
is
way
true.
over time. So I'm going to go ahead and say let's like, I mean, stick around, we can chat, but like it's time to go ahead and end the stream. So we definitely had some people come through and check it out. So I hope they got something. This will definitely be posted up on YouTube shortly. I'm pretty sure Restream just puts it up there. So yeah, one more for the books. We got one more at the end of the month, and that'll be our 1-year gala. And I believe someone said we're all gonna get individual cakes. Cake. I'm remembering this, and I'm pretty sure there's video proof that we had this conversation. So, yeah. So I will catch everyone again in a couple of weeks. So,
Okay.
Thanks for coming out.
Sounds good.
For watching, guys.